See, we have that alignment where our pictures match up.
That's
That's my OCD showing through. I was like, can we switch seats? Hi guys. I'm going to keep my notes up here, and I'm going to be very rude, and we're going to walk through this. We're going to have a conversation, you and I. It's going to be a great journey. My name is Benjamin Felix. I'm the CMO over at Stackline, connected commerce platform focusing on retail intelligence, advertising operations, you name it, we are doing it. And I'm joined with Emily.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Emily Thomas Theobald. I've been in CPG my whole career. So I started in sales at Newell Brands. And then I was also at Campbell's Soup, where I was in category management, corporate strategy, shopper insights, and I started my eComm journey 2 weeks before COVID. I thought I was joining this little niche part of an organization, and the world changed. So I've been hooked ever since. And now I'm at Church & Dwight. I lead our retail media, e-commerce search, and digital capabilities.
Can you give a quick overview of the brands of Church & Dwight?
Oh, sure, yes. So Arm & Hammer is probably the biggest one that you know, OxyClean, cat litter, laundry, vitamins. We have a plethora of brands, Waterpik, TheraBreath.
Nice. Yeah. They're a client.
I could go on and on, but.
Yeah. So we're marketers. In our role, we get to put together fun buzzwords, acronyms, the sexy new kind of things, and language is kind of our life. So instead of doing a regular kind of fireside chat, Emily and I figured let's just do the marketing version of hot or not. And so I'm going to give Emily a set of topics. You're going to tell us if it's hot, if it's cooling off, or if it's maybe in the middle, right? So we're going to start with number one is omnichannel.
Yeah. So I would say this is still hot. I know we talked a little bit about like maybe the word is a little stale, but it's super relevant still today. We all saw the change in COVID, right? E-commerce grew. We're coming out of COVID. It's like, is e-commerce going to stick? Is it brick and mortar? Is it e-commerce? And the reality is shoppers still are really pressed for time. They're stressed. Inflationary times with pricing. So they're looking for things like convenience and being able to budget and plan. And omnichannel fits that need and solves that for shoppers. So I'll give you kind of a quick example is I have a 4-year-old. His name is Teddy. He had a birthday last week, and we've only had one birthday party for him when he turned 1. And for various reasons, we didn't do different parties. And he's a COVID time, right? He's a shy kid. So this year he was like, I want a birthday party, Mom. And I'm like, let's do it. Typical, we used to live in the city, now we live in the suburbs, so we moved. So I thought this party was gonna be great. We're gonna invite old neighbors, old friends, we'll invite new neighbors, new friends. Probably a lot of people won't come, but it'll still be fun. And I went to the dollar store, got party plates and decorations. I went to Costco, got food. I went to Target and treated myself to all these other things for the party. And then leading up to the party, we get more and more RSVPs. And suddenly there's like 50, 60 people. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm doing that thing where I'm ordering products at night, getting shipped to my house the next day, right? So I'm going back to Target and getting more beverages, more party favors. I'm Instacarting food at the last minute, right? So this is an example of like omnichannel world, like these habits that we've built and routinized now are a part of our everyday life. And I think that's the challenge for brands, right? You have to show up in all these places and have that consistent brand message, brand equity, because when I was ordering last minute products, they didn't have any more party favors. It was only in-store only. So I was like, well, I'm not getting that, I'm getting this. I changed brands, I changed products. So that's the challenge, to show up and be there, because there's other products that are, and you have a risk of not retaining folks.
It's interesting because, we talk internally at Stackline, and this idea of omnichannel, it's a construct, but it's also kind of a mindset with respect to your products need to be available to everyone, everywhere, at any time. Right, and with that being stated, there's a litany of different things that kind of fall within that. So,
sure. Yeah.
So let's move to the next one,
Okay,
because we got started a little late, which we're not that upset about. But so let's jump into next one is retail media.
On fire.
On fire.
Yeah.
Totally on fire.
I mean, McKinsey, BCG, they always say it's for retailers, it's a $100 billion annual opportunity, right? So things are very expensive for retailers these days. So obviously, revenue stream, right? But they're sitting on a lot of rich data from their shoppers. They're driving a lot of traffic. They're able to build baskets, merchandise, have that closed loop. So it's a huge opportunity, and that's why brands probably feel the pressure, right? They're hitting up brand teams, shopper teams, sales teams, right, to kind of capture that revenue. But I think the opportunity there is this can truly be a lever for brands if they can harness the power of retail media to drive their brand objectives, their sales objectives, making sure that they can reach their sales and share goals. Even lately, right, the Kroger, Albertsons, I mean, that's a big push for retail media, right? Like the amount of data and loyalty card there is just going to have lasting impacts on the retail media landscape.
Well, I mean, I'd even go further to say, and on top of that, not disagreeing with you, in fact, quite the opposite. There are more searches now on Amazon than there are on Google. Just think about the scale there, right? And so these are people that have intent. They want to buy something. You want to be present in there? I heard the whispers. That's real data. So,
and it's a challenge the way you operate as so I've always been in large CPG companies, right? And there's different teams, right? You got your brand teams, your performance marketing teams, your sales teams. So what's happening is it's a fragmentation. So you really have to have the right partners internally to say, hey, shopper team, what are you doing, right? Sales team, what promotions do you have? National media, what are you doing that we can kind of carry through to the retailer level? And making sure you're bringing in the experts, shopper insights, category strategy. These are the folks in your organization that know how to like merchandise and sell, and you can start using that knowledge and lining it up to media tactics on site on a retailer, right, or off platform to make sure that you're using your dollars in the right way, making sure your content's good so you're not just driving traffic to PDPs that won't convert. So you really need those partnerships internally and like bring everyone together to make it happen, and then like start measuring it and looking at the results. Because you could go campaign to campaign and keep vesting and say, okay, that campaign delivered great. I got a $6 ROAS, right? But if it's not meeting your objectives, maybe you needed more awareness. Maybe you needed more trial. Maybe you needed to really drive share growth with a certain item. So you have to start measuring it and iterating on what you're learning and learning those lessons, because the space moves so rapidly. There's new capabilities all the time with retailers. And you have to start building playbooks as a brand. Okay, these are the tactics I want when I go for a new item. These are the ones I want at the last minute if I need to capture share real quick. So then you can go back to a retailer to say, I want this and I don't want that, right? That doesn't work. This is our shared objective. These are the dollars it takes. And it's not this tax on your brand.
PDPs, product detail pages.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's all good. We're dispelling the acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think when, at Amazon Unboxed last week, right, we were talking about that. I mean, everything from streaming video to, video ads and anything and everything, Amazon is trying to obviously up-level every single portion of their DSP. So
It's like a funnel in a funnel itself, right? You can get all the
Amazon funnel.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, everything from that to Thursday Night Football and Twitch.
For sure.
All together.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the next one, which is digital shelf. And really fast before we jump into what is the digital shelf?
Oh my gosh, who knows? It's just the way we operate. It's the way we drive business, right? So I think earlier when we were less mature within e-commerce, in CPG, I'll say, is that you had to build that foundational excellence, right? You had to make sure you were available online. You had to make sure you had the right number of images, ratings and reviews. Do you have the right keywords? So you're making sure you're executing each one of these levers of the digital shelf. Well, this space moves so quickly and so dynamically that it all has to be integrated and operating and firing it all at the same time, or else it doesn't work together, right? And that's, I think, the advantage of challenger brands, right? Like, they can be more nimble, they can be more agile, they can get in there and do things. They don't have to maybe have so many reviews or approvals or process. And that's the challenge for larger brands, is to like really have it all timed perfectly. And operationalizing it in your own organization, which is an interesting, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's the lift in self, right? We saw Truff was up there with Clorox. I almost want to say, like, it's not your fault, like the Goodwill Hunting kind of thing. Like, it's not your fault, it's okay.
Yeah.
So is digital shelf heating up, cooling off, or hold?
I think the word itself is cooling off. But I think it's just as important, and we should focus on it just as much, because it's the new way of operating, right? Like, for example, one of the levers, ratings and reviews, right? You have a new product, People are going to look at that product. They want to have those reviews to have confidence in the product, trust that it's the same product they want to show up on their door, really driving conversion. Well, that metric, everyone in the organization plays a part in. So you have alerts you can send to someone to say, hey, look, it's a 1-star review. Are we responding, consumer engagement team? Are you reaching out to them? Is it in a brand tone? Then you can send it to a content person. Hey, look, we're getting a lot of reviews because people don't understand this benefit. Let's add something to our content. Or, hey, search team, this product fell off page 2. How do we get it amplified back to page 1? R&D, brand teams, make sure you're using ratings and reviews as that consumer feedback loop to improve products. So it's very important. It's all very integrated and it moves super fast. So as an organization, you have to really operationalize that in every single department.
And that, I think, irrespective of if it's FMCG, CPG, CE, apparel, beauty, like you name it, everybody's got to be able to leverage that or activate that data in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and every retailer is going to be different, right? So you're going to have different requirements, different algorithms, so you have to really now get really nuanced to say, this is the suite of assets I need, and this is how I'm going to deploy them to every retailer so we can meet those requirements, but also win those top spots because they matter more.
They do, and it's funny, we were looking at some of the data that, you know, the top 2, if you're not top 2 on an Amazon, a Walmart, or a Target, you're basically, you know, ostensibly like 60% of the business goes to the top 2 brands. Everything else falls to the other 1,000, right?
Yeah, because look at your phone. We're all shopping on our phones. We're all using our phones, right? So 2 products, 4 products show up at best.
Yeah.
And how much are you going to scroll before you kind of give up or buy?
So that corollary, right? So the corollary to the physical world, right? The planogram. I don't know if you guys, people have been around long enough to remember the planogram, right? You'd see where your items show up on the specific shelf. The digital shelf has that same type of feel, right? The share of shelf, like how much are you showing up? How high are you showing up?
How is it benchmarked to your share, right? And get more predictive in that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you talk like brick and mortar versus digital shelf. We've done a lot of education just in our own organization about the differences, how they're similar. But the speed, again, right? Like in a planogram, you can wait till a reset if you're unavailable. Your hole will be there, right? But in a digital shelf, you'll get penalized almost if you're not available, and it'll be more costly to get back up to those top spots that you need.
So let's move on to the next one. The next.
We could go on.
Yeah, it's literally. Augmented reality, aka AR. Hot or not?
It depends on your category and product, right? Apparel, furniture, right? These are places that people have pain points when they go to buy. Like, have you ever bought a couch lately? You're like, what does it look like in my room? What is the color? What is the size? These are tools that can help you break down those barriers, and your speed to purchase gets that much faster. But if you're in a category that is laundry detergent or something like that, like it may not be the best place right now. You may want to test and learn, right? Because augmented reality may be something very different 5 years, 10 years from now, but it's not necessarily this like driving force you need to invest everything in. You want to experiment a little bit, see where it's relevant to your brands. Because also like virtual reality, right? Like augmented reality is a little bit more accessible to folks who don't need as much equipment, but it has to make sense and add value to your consumers and shoppers.
Yeah. So FMCG, or even the specific category or subcategory specific, it may work, it may not work.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Next one. This is my favorite one. Incrementality. That has been the buzzword you ask every CMO. Incrementality is the thing, right?
It's the thing. Very hot.
So super hot.
Yeah.
So hot right now.
What does it mean?
Gets them going, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Are you quizzing me? I can give you. No, I want to
there's
hear
many definitions, right? And you can, it comes down to the idea of measurement and how we're measuring things based on our own objectives and making sure that we have a standard for how we're doing to drive performance, because it could be incremental to your Amazon business, but is that just taking dollars from your Walmart business or your Target business? Is that what you want as an organization if you're focused on saying driving profitable growth, right? Because you're just shifting now from retailer to retailer, or you could be shifting into like people stocking up and now their purchase cycles are much longer. You can be shifting from yourself. So I think there's tactics you can do to drive more incrementality, right? Conquesting is a great example, right? If you're biggest competitor goes out of stock and you're able to take advantage of that and take that sale. And now they have your brand and they're repurchasing from their list. That's a great example of that incrementality.
No, I was just going to say is that I love conquesting. It's like my favorite tactic of all time. But on the flip side on that one, I think people sometimes assume that incrementality is because we say the word ROAS, right? And we're in this metric-driven game where if your ROAS is high, that means you're doing great. Well, the flip side, and I see a few of the Stackliners that know where I'm going here, because oftentimes we have to tell people, listen, if you're really wanting to gain incremental market share, it sometimes is a little difficult because you're clawing things back. So how are you kind of dealing with that, letting people know, listen, if we're going to be conquesting, that means that somebody isn't exactly looking for us.
Correct.
So my ROAS in those campaigns might be down, but I'm going to be picking up somebody new. I'm going to be, driving that additional market share. How do you educate around that?
Objective-based KPIs is like my new favorite thing that I say lately.
So hot right now, by the way.
But it's true, to your point, like if you're going to be more incremental or you need to drive more awareness or these other things, you can't expect to have a high ROAS, right? It's going to be more costly. And there's a gamification of this, right? You could say, I want a good ROAS, and you invest in all these branded terms. Yeah. You're getting buyers that are already going to buy your product. Your ROAS is going to look awesome. Yeah. But it's not helping you achieve maybe profitable growth or incremental growth or gaining share in the category, which is what we're trying to get after. Yeah,
we oftentimes find ourselves kind of reality checking a lot of agencies and saying, hey, listen, or talking to the brands and saying, hey, listen, your agency's telling they have a great ROAS, but guess what? They're just buying the same branded terms over and over again.
Exactly, and we have to kind of deal with that complexity, I think, as marketers and sales folks, right? Is looking at all the different metrics, how they work together, and really integrating them all to like tell the story of what's really happening here. It's not just ROAS. There's a whole other bunch of things that we need to look at.
So let's go to the next one. Multi-marketplace optimization. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Hot or not?
I think it's getting there. Because
heating up.
Heating up, I would say, yes. Depending on your organization as well, right? Global marketplaces, how many marketplaces you're in, what are those requirements we've touched about of like retailers, right? So the challenge becomes is you want to be able to scale to drive efficiencies, to make sure your budgets work harder for you, but you can't just have this peanut butter spread across every single market globally, or even every single retailer within a certain market, because there's going to be needs. If you're a food company, right, there's regulations, there's FDA things that you have to comply to. In other countries, it means something different, and other regulations that you have to deal with, and certainly other languages. And when you think about the keywords that you're having in your titles can mean something much different in other languages when you go to translate those. So you need to be able to scale and leverage your dollars effectively, but you also need to make sure you have like those subject matter experts that really know things, have those powers and decision making rights to make sure that they can meet on their local kind of requirements and their retailer requirements, or it's going to go off the rails.
My favorite translation is always German, because you get to pretty much see brand new words being created right in front of you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a couple more, and then we're going to do a Q&A. Feel free to throw out more buzzwords. Clean rooms.
Oh my God.
Hearing a lot of that one.
On fire again.
So hot.
Yeah. And it makes sense, right? Because we're going into this world that another buzzword we could have added. Right? And data integration is so important, right? Every party can bring a uniqueness and a unique data set, but the power is bringing them together to understanding more about your consumers and your shoppers, of their behaviors outside maybe your retailer set, right? What are their interests? What are their activities? What are their purchasing decisions? You get this intimate knowledge, right, that you can target and create audiences and do all this magic with it. But it's one of those things that you have to make sure it's secure. You have quality data, right? So it's very hot, but I think you just need a little bit of caution. And I'm very interested to see how this matures too as we go forward, because I think it's going to get more and more important.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of an arms race, right? Like
sure.
whoever's got the edge, that's how you continue to grab market share or dominate the market in general.
Yeah.
So last one is connected commerce, which I might have tattooed on my arm.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
So our team that I sit on, so at Church and Dwight, I'm on the digital growth team and led by Survey. She's amazing. And my manager, Juan, his group is called the Connected Commerce team. So this is something that I think is hot, right? The word connected commerce itself. But it's so important because I think Vivian mentioned earlier too, like people are researching, shopping, doing everything all at the same time. And you may not even know it, right? You're spending hours a day on your phones or on your devices connected to the internet that you don't even almost realize anymore that you're researching, buying, making decisions. So it's truly to really understand a consumer and a shopper and meet them where they are. You have to know much more about them, and it has to all be integrated so that you don't have this mixed messaging to them, right? Whoever got like an email sent to them, you're like, wait, why did I just get this? I just bought this maybe sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So it all has to be integrated together.
So is omnichannel, is connected commerce the new omnichannel? Is that it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, cool. So we open it up, Q&A?
Yeah.
All right. We take silence as we nailed it. Oh, damn.
Didn't nail it. Sorry.
No.
That's a different show.
All right, I'll try to give you guys a hot question.
Uh-oh.
All right, so no, this is about retail media, and I'd love to understand how at Church and Dwight you guys are managing, like at Nestle we have brand media, we have retail media, and they're sort of separated, right? But I think a big opportunity is to connect the two. So if you talked about Amazon, right? #1 search engine for products, has been since 2018, according to Mary Meeker. Maybe she's not hot anymore. I don't know.
She's always hot.
Always hot. Okay, great. Anyway, so but that idea of you've got streaming TV running through Amazon, you might have it through other Kroger, Walmart. There's an audience that you're connecting with there, and that might be led by the brand team, right? And then we're doing ads down on the retail marketing level, but we're not necessarily remarketing to those folks or working up and down the channel. So I wanted to know, how are you connecting those dots at Church and Dwight, or is that an opportunity for the future?
I think it's an opportunity, right? And I think that's something that most people are working on, right? Expanding up the funnel and then also across into the store as well. And I think that's the opportunity of retail media, that to really deliver it, sometimes it does need an expertise or needs to sit somewhere differently in an organization, but you have to be a part of the national media. You have to be what's happening in store, but that's the challenge of bringing it all through. And I think that's why retailers see that too and are offering these services, right? So that you can do that full funnel approach within the retailer media itself. And then you get into these, esoteric conversations of what is retail media and all of that, right? But it is a challenge. I do see it as an opportunity because only then can you really drive all your media together and get those efficiencies.
It's so hot. Full funnel connected commerce is literally what Stackline does. So there's Kelly right there. Kelly, if you want to just chat. But no, that was a great question.
Other questions? All right. You guys canvass what's hot then, I guess.
Awesome.
Thank you
guys.
very much.